early Bitcoiners, consisting of the Purse.io crew. It's a Bitcoin marketplace that's founded in 2014. Also, for many years, was one of the top funders for open source Bitcoin developers. They were just funded out of it, just because they loved Bitcoin so much, without any expectation of return. So Purse.io developers helped create Handshake, which is a proof-of-work blockchain, as well as Joseph Poon, who created the Lightning Network. He wrote the Lightning Network paper, along with one other individual, and he also designed Handshake's blockchain. So definitely recommend taking a look at handshake.org and look at the design notes of it, because the design and engineering is unlike any other project that I've seen and what we're trying to accomplish. So whereas with Bitcoin, is basically, to me, Bitcoin means a lot of things, right? But to me, it means freedom money, right? Whereas with Handshake, what we're trying to do is to create a free and open web. This is a proof of work blockchain. It's entirely community led. So when Purse.io and the developers launched the chain back in February 3rd, 2020, they took a step back, they disappeared, and really it's been entirely organic. What has happened since? So no one is paying me to be up here. My company is ATX. We're establishing .tx as the domain for Texas. .tx is a top-level domain that exists in Handshake's root zone. And so I guess get into the explanation of what Handshake is. It's a decentralized naming protocol, with the goal being to become the base of the decentralized web. So Handshake, if you think about competitors, it isn't Ethereum name service .eth. It's not its top-level domains. It's ICANN, which is basically the entity that controls the internet root zone of what we all use today, dating back to the late 90s. So .com, .org, if y'all don't know, is actually at the very core is controlled by a centralized entity called ICANN, and then of course they delegate, the responsibilities of top-level domain to, of .com to VeriSign, for example, but it's centralized at its core. So it's my belief if we're going to be moving into a more decentralized, free, free future, for all of us, where we can have, self-sovereignty, it's kind of important that how we're communicating with one another is decentralized. And if you think about it, we'll get into it here in a little bit. I don't want to go off on a tangent here, but really my belief is Handshake and Bitcoin go hand in hand together. So these next few slides, I'll just do a few little shout outs of what's kind of going on, what's caught my eye in Handshake and the decentralized web. I also want anyone here, to share what you've been working on, as well as what has interested you. It could be in Bitcoin, Ethereum, you name it, whatever catches your eye. Feel free to speak up, whether it's about this or anything else. We'll have time if anybody else wants to speak. I want to shout out Shake Station, built by a developer. His name's Eskimo. He's done a lot of really great things in the Handshake community over the past few years. No one's paid him anything. He's just building for free in his own time. But basically, here in the recent months, he built Shake Station, which is a marketplace for handshake names. So handshake names, you can think of them as Web3 domains, NFT domains. They're top-level domains. Compared to like registering a .eth domain, it could be Nole.eth. That's a second level domain. With Handshake, like by interacting with Handshake's blockchain, you can actually register top level domains. So it's Handshake or .Nole in essence. So that kind of shows that there's nobody that is above you, that could kind of rug your domain or censor you. I mean, you have true ownership of your name with Handshake top-level domain. If you're curious, getting started and picking up a few Handshake names, you can win them. I mean, I'm sure Marcus, he's, what's the cheapest Handshake domain that you've registered before? Like, how much did it cost? Would you say?
I think you get them for free if nobody bids against you, right?
Yeah, exactly. So the way it works with registering Handshake names, and we'll get into a little bit later, is basically you're just interacting with the blockchain, opening up an auction for a name that hasn't been registered yet, and if no one places another bid, if you're the only bid, then you basically get that domain for free. Okay, it's not like, Shake Station, they take a very small fee. It's like probably a penny, per bid, or, I don't know what it is, but it's very, very small. So it is kind of like, you're having to trust Shake Station compared to, I'll get into more of a self-custody wallet. But I still recommend checking out Namebase. Was the most predominant marketplace for handshake names, as well as now Shake Station is there too. So shakestation.io, and if you can access handshake sites, so if you have the Beacon browser downloaded, or a few other browsers, or Fingertip installed on one of your devices, your mobile phone or desktop, I recommend just going to ShakeStation / and then that will take you to, that's how we should be doing it really. It's a decentralized front end that you can actually use it today. Another thing is Namecheap and Blue Sky. So Namecheap is a huge player in Handshake. How many here have heard of Blue Sky before? Yeah, a few of us. So this is kind of, this is
Jack Dorsey's Blue Sky?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Jack Dorsey's Blue Sky, although he, helped in the early days, but he doesn't necessarily have decision-making abilities these days. But it's kind of like I don't know how you would describe it. I mean, this is probably simplifying it, but like a decentralized social media platform or protocol that's been in the works for a couple of years. Jack Dorsey, as you just said, was kind of like backing it in the early days. Well, I would say like probably 2018 was when the paper was written on Blue Sky. But it launched earlier this year. It's still invite only. I don't know how many users there are. A couple months ago, maybe there's 30,000 users when it last checked. But what I want to bring up though is Namecheap's recent partnership with Blue Sky. Basically, I guess one of the many things that makes Blue Sky different than a centralized platform like Twitter is that they use DNS for their usernames. So you can, like when you create an account on Blue Sky, you can actually, if you have like your own domain, is it okay if I say your domain? Lucid.ai, that can actually, is that right?
.art.
.art?
And apparently it's .art is something important that I didn't even know. I just bought it because I liked the domain.
Oh yeah, .art. I know the individuals that own .art. It's pork bun, top level design owns it, like you know them too, Marcus. So that's really cool. So lucid.art, that's actually your username on Blue Sky. So just think in the past with like usernames on social media, accounts, or all these different usernames that we have, dozens over the years, right? And you have to like memorize each username, and each username is going to be different depending on what's available, how early you get in. Well, not with Blue Sky. It's literally a domain that you own. Of course, they'll issue you a free, subdomain, if you want to just use theirs, but you can actually use your own custom domain that you own. So no one can be lucid.art but you. And that's also going to be true. This is just kind of like an early development of how I see where we're going to head in the web. So whether with Blue Sky, with Noster, with all these other decentralized platforms, there can only be one you. And I really think that DNS has so much potential, and why I'm so excited about Handshake and its possibilities is because there's so much more to it than just websites. So yeah, if anybody wants to take a look at Blue Sky, I have a lot of Blue Sky invites. So just come find me after this, and I'll hook you up and get you onboarded to Blue Sky, so that way you can see. But one last thing, while I have this picture right here, this is me. What is my username? It's move2.tx. .tx, that's not part of iAccount. That's what we're doing on Handshake. And so one of the deals with Namecheap's partnership, it's not necessarily official yet, but one with Namecheap's name servers, seeing that they support Handshake names, if you register a .tx domain on Namecheap, you can actually use that on Blue Sky. So it's kind of like a workaround, and Blue Sky knows about it. So I think that's kind of cool to be able to use .tx, and there's other Handshake domains that you can register on Namecheap as well. Yeah.
Is it guaranteed to be supported, or is it just kind of like a workaround that might be deprecated sometime?
deprecate it in the future. I mean, I thought it was going to be temporary, but you know, it's been several months now, and the Blue Sky team is very well aware of it. They included Handshake in their initial white paper back several years ago. So there's always, initially when they launched earlier this year before this partnership, you know, there was talks, but they weren't, you know, this is still kind of you know, very early stages for them, so they didn't want to expand to Handshake names like our top level domains that we have, right? We have 12 million top level domains besides .tx. So they came out and said that, but then, you know, now you can register, you know, Handshake domains or second level domains on Namecheap. So it could, this just shows you it's more of a use case of what is possible. Don't make any guarantees that they wouldn't, you know, make any kind of changes to prevent that in the future. But it's been several months now. You know, I've had a .tx domain up and it hasn't, you know, been removed yet from their system. But it could.
It's probably going to break too many things if they decide to remove it. So I'm guessing that they're probably not going to remove it.
It's not worth their time. But yeah,
No.
yeah. But anyways, if you want Blue Sky invite, just find me afterwards, and you can download like their mobile app and everything. But I'd be happy to hook you all up there. Yeah, that leads me to one of the things I did here this past month. I made some over 100 jars of Texas native grape jelly. I've already talked to y'all about that, but I have some extra ones here for everyone that attended in person. Feel free to take one home with you. There is made using wild grapes. Mustang grapes is what they're called. That just grows in your yard, right?
Yeah.
It grows in your yard, and it grows on my place as well. And so I just decided to make some grape jelly just for the community and just to be able to share it with others. For anybody online, I'd be happy to ship you a jar of jelly. I've done it you know, a few times here over the past month. You just need to register a .tx domain, and then I'll cover the shipping costs. But feel free just to reach out to me. I'd be happy to ship you some in the United States only. And that gets me to one of the more exciting recent happenings is the launch of HNS.id. This was over the past week. Something that Namebase, which is, as I just said, a huge player in Handshake. They've been working on for the past year. It's an open source and on-chain registry for a decentralized second level domains. That part is huge. And these top level domains are anchored in the Handshake root zone, so it offers, you're not going to be able to find you know, a domain that's more decent, a second level domain that's more decentralized than these. It does use Optimism, which is a layer 2 on Ethereum. So there is that. So it kind of exists in both of these worlds where you can be able to register these NFT domains. Including .hey, which is what we launched this past week, or .hns, which I think is a pretty good one. For the first time, it just became available to register .hns domain here in the past week, so it's still really early. You know, with .e, how many do we have? Like a few million, right? .hns, it was just launched this past week. Just a few other comments on that. With Handshake, it offers you the most decentralization. If you care about freedom, there's not going to be another you know, blockchain domain that is better than that, and be able to set up truly censorship-resistant websites. So that is possible with these domains, as well as now we're kind of you know, going across the chasm to more of the Ethereum ecosystem, which is a lot more liquid. There's, you know, these huge, vibrant communities there. And so now on Ethereum, you can easily register these domains, you know, by, you know, with MetaMask. You know, it's basically just how you register any other blockchain domain, right, Marcus? That you've experienced. So yeah, I think that's really cool, and you can actually use these as wallet names, which is pretty cool too. That's definitely a use case for Web3 domains, and it basically just takes like an ENS bridge, and it's still a work in progress and everything. But you can register, you know, like Nole.hey is me, and you can actually send me ETH, Bitcoin, HNS by just typing out Nole. It's Nole.hey.hns.eth is the bridge currently for .hey domains. That's kind of how it works for wallet names. But of course, in the future with wallet integrations and partnerships, that will become more streamlined. give a definition for it, but it is the most, I would say, informal greeting in the English language. I had registered it when I was early on in Handshake. Handshake launched in February 2020, and I registered it in June, and that sounds like I got to it late, but it became available in June. It's kind of how they did a year rollout for domains, where not all of them became available at once compared to Namecoin. That's one of their flaws in their design. They just released everything where you could register any .bit domain, and so you had a lot of name squatters. I know one or two of them. They just snatched up all the really great domains, and nobody's building on them. I think 4 or 5 years after Namecoin, there's only 30 sites. Is from some research that I heard. But anyway, so registered that, been sitting on it for a while, and saw this as a really good opportunity because I wanted something that's decentralized here, and that's robust compared to .tx right now. .tx is on Namecheap and other traditional domain registrars, but at the end of the day, you still have to trust those those domain registrars. But .tx will be likely moving to HNS.id in the future, where you can be able to keep these domains on Namecheap, but then also withdraw your .tx domains to your own private wallet as well. So I think it'll be good to have that convenience, or if you want that control. But yeah, I think these will be really great for social media platforms, messaging as well. You can set up simple sites. That's kind of how I envision .pay, and then also the wallet name aspect as well. So those are some of the use cases, what you can do with .pay right now. This kind of leads me to, are there any questions so far on anything that we just talked about? This leads me to Bitcoin. Well, Noster and Bitcoin kind of go hand in hand, even though Noster isn't technically built on Bitcoin. But how many here have heard of Noster before? Okay, so we have a few of us here. So this is, once again, probably somebody else could explain it better, but it is kind of like, I would say, it's kind of like a decentralized communication, protocol, not necessarily a social media platform, because with Noster you can be able to have dozens of different kind of interfaces and still be able to have your same public key. It just kind of depends on which platform you want to experience. But what I want to bring up with Noster is, and this is an issue that I saw recently, is they have, I think it's called Damus is the app. It's an app that you can download from the App Store, Android Store, and a few months ago, Apple decided to kind of ban the app, or made an announcement, hey, we're banning that because they're doing doing tipping in the Apple Lightning Network. And so they, Apple saying, hey, I want my cut, because normally they get 30% for any kind of transactions or payments that have to do, with the apps on their platform. And so Jack Dorsey begged, you can look at it on X, I guess, that's what they call it. He's begging, Apple, hey, don't ban them, this isn't right and everything. But my argument is we shouldn't have to rely on them, the App Store. We shouldn't have to rely on .com or all this other stuff where censorship can go on. I believe that Handshake has a real value proposition to work together with Noster in two different areas. The first one is for decentralized websites. So that way you can be able to interact on Noster or Blue Sky, by having a decentralized front end, so they can't necessarily go to GoDaddy, or Namecheap and saying hey, you need to take this domain down, which happens. That happened with Tornado Cash last August, and that's just one example. That's just fresh on my mind. Another thing, similar to Blue Sky, Noster it's called NIT5, which is a improvement proposal. Basically, that NIT5 is basically where you can be able to map your public keys to DNS-based identifiers. So Handshake is basically DNS on blockchain, so there's not really too much configuration that you have to do. And so to me, this would be a game changer, because I played around, on a few different Noster apps earlier this year, and in the Bitcoin community, they love to share their public key. Can anybody memorize this? Or, is that really human friendly at all, like this long string. And I'm like, what are y'all doing, guys? Like, and yet here, we can bring up, like these blockchain domains, whether it's Handshake or not. I'm like, how do you not see the value proposition here to say, hey, you can find me on Noster at Nole.tx. That's where you can find me. It doesn't matter where you are, which app you're on for Noster. You can just look up Nole.tx and find them, instead of how they have been doing it since it's launched publicly. It's just this long string, so it's a little frustrating. But I do know that those in the Handshake community, have had conversations with those behind Noster and some of the leading apps, and surprisingly, they're actually some of them are actually open to have be able to utilize Handshake names, even though we are another blockchain. We are a separate blockchain, so that's really cool. But if you're wanting to look into this proposal, just go to GitHub. There it is. There, the link. If you actually want to look at some of the links that I'm providing here as resources, I can share the slide deck with you after this. This is even more under the radar. If you haven't heard of Noster, there's pretty much guaranteed you haven't heard of Thunderbolt. And it caught my eye because I'm kind of closely aligned with what Namecheap is doing, and Richard Kirkendall, who's the founder of Namecheap. A little quick statement on that is they were one of the first, one of the first businesses to accept Bitcoin for registering domains back in 2013. So Namecheap is very much aligned with with the Bitcoin ethos and with Handshake ethos. Yeah.
Wait, but Thunderbolt is also like the thing that Apple used to have before they moved to USB-C and like used before, right?
Really? Well, can you here? Let me just. As you can see here, I'll touch on that, and I want you to see if this actually is that. This is a recent patent that they just got approved, a U.S. patent, and it's leveraging peer-to-peer communication through DNS. So this is another point. This is something I've been in the domain space, DNS, for several years now, and this isn't even something I have thought of before. Have you, Marcus? With basically with phone calls and chat. So instead of having a phone number, you can actually call, like Nole.tx or iHeart Domains. And that's actually,
Somebody actually just asked that question during my spaces today.
About this, or just the idea?
They were wishing the utility into existence, about being able to use names and message natively like you do right now.
Yeah.
Just like SMS and communicate, just using the blockchain domains like that.
Well, I'm not saying this is gonna take place tomorrow, but from your conversation, like you're leading a talk earlier today, right? Then now we have this, and this is obviously just a patent, and there's a lot of patents that never become anything, but I'm still pretty excited about the idea of it, because I am frustrated by how this system of phones work, and with all the spam I get. And so just a few value props for this is you don't have to memorize or look up numbers, obviously, because if I'm who I am, then if I choose to be public, make my number be public, then you can be able to call out. This is also really good for businesses too, if you think about it. So think of this huge business. I'm not gonna mention any names specifically, but imagine they have a call center. Anybody, it doesn't matter if you're on the side of the road, it doesn't matter where you are, you're gonna know, how to reach them, compared to having to go to their website or having to go to Google and taking a few steps. Well, you already have it memorized of what their what their domain is, and you can just be able to call them up. That's pretty cool. These also offer more privacy and more control. So I don't, this is a long patent and everything. I'm trying to make it as condensed as possible, but there is a way for you to be able to filter out spam, which I, would dream about. I'd pay a lot for if that were to come true. But I have the actual patent here, and this is just one of the images that I got there of on a call with, and this is a subdomain that they have, but it kind of just gives you an idea of what is possible, with DNS and HNS then, because obviously Namecheap has devoted a lot of time and resources to Handshake. This is also something that's extremely under the radar. I'm just, I try to do things that aren't really too overhyped, and we'll see if anything sticks or if y'all find value in anything. Has anybody heard of Warp before? Warp Dex. Okay, this just came out last week. It was announced at a Stanford blockchain event by Joseph Poon and Christopher Jeffrey, or JJ. So these are two very private individuals that not only created the Lightning Network, built out Purse, and what JJ has done. I mean, I can get into it. Basically, rewrote Bitcoin from scratch in a couple different programming languages. No individual has ever done that in history, and he's done it at least 2 times in 2 different programming languages. JavaScript is being one of them that ended up becoming the base for Handshake. So these guys are extremely, extremely smart. I think we should probably pay attention. Joseph Poon, used to be an early leader in Bitcoin and Ethereum, and he hasn't done a public talk in like 6-7 years. So I recommend, I'm not gonna give you too much of a rehash of it, but go YouTube it, a Stanford Video YouTube channel. It's at the 1 hour and 20 minute mark, and it's like a 30-40 minute introduction. But basically what this is, in small part, it's this invention that they have come up with is a smaller part of what they're really going for, which I'm not privy to, but it's a decentralized exchange order matching for UTXOs like Bitcoin, Doge, HNS, and it matches buyers and sellers completely on chain. And what is different, because there's decentralized exchanges in the past, but those are all based on linear matching engines, so you can only fulfill one order at a time. And supposedly, with what they've created, the logarithmic matching engine, this enables what we're used to with traditional setups, where you can have true limit order books, and auctions, and it completely dismantles what we've done previously that isn't scalable. So you can fulfill hundreds of thousands of orders instantly, compared to what the DEX setup is based on right now. It's kind of like one order at a time, and it's whatever meets in the middle. But anyways, it's coming mid to late September, so you are probably one of the first ones to know about it, besides those at that talk. And I recommend listening to that talk and just kind of keeping your ears to the ground to see what happens, because these guys are more innovators. They're not marketers or anything like that. So what they've developed are foundational technologies, including Handshake. Quick, before I forget about it, our next meetup, I know we were hosting meetups on a monthly basis. We had 2 in April, including 1 here during Consensus, where we had close to 100 attendees. And then we kind of stopped for a few months. We're gonna get back into it. It's getting a little bit cooler. And what we did a lot last year was have meetups at different beer gardens around Austin. We try to change it up. And really, why I like to do beer gardens is just to have an open floor, just be able to have casual conversation, talk about whatever you're interested in. It doesn't have to be Handshake, it doesn't have to be decentralized web. It can be what you're working on. It can be about what you're passionate about. It doesn't have to be about technology. It can be about Texas. It can be about travel. It can be about anything. That's how these meetups work, and that's how I want our community to be like. Anyways, it's gonna be on a Saturday because we have quite a few community members that aren't able to make it in the week, including some that travel from other places. I know Marcus is very dedicated, coming from San Antonio. We have some that come from Dallas and other parts of Texas as well, and so having it on the weekend will be nice for us to be able to meet with others that normally wouldn't get to come. But we'd love to have everyone here just so we can continue the conversation. Does anybody want to touch on anything or bring anything up about what was said, or anything else before I kind of get into just talking about the happening event?
Why does it need a coin?
What?
Why do you need a coin for it?
Yeah,
Why does it need a block for it?
Yeah, that's actually in this presentation here. So, great.